All right. Thank you. Thank you, Sudeshji. So, good afternoon again, and a very warm welcome to educators from all across the country present here. It's my proud privilege to extend this welcome on behalf of Central Board of Secondary Education and Goethe-Institute. The need of contemporary education is to orient students towards vocationalization and professional training. And this has also been voiced in the new Education Policy 2020. The next step, of course, is to implement it in the schools. To address this concern, CBSE, the EPIC examining body, has taken up this task and, in collaboration with Goethe-Institute, is organizing today's conclave to orient us all towards the same. So, without taking much of the valued time, let's get started. And I would invite Ms. Puneet Kaur, Head of Educational Services, Goethe-Institute, Maxwell Above, New Delhi, to deliver her talk on the subject and context.
Was very successful, and at times the industry over Germany now also it has well accepted, and I think multiple country has tried to study and replicate their model in their respective nation. In India also, to some extent, this kind of initiations has already been there, especially in our ITI systems. But school to work transitions, how we can really categorically map so that industry integration is more easy for us. I think in those directions we are moving, and NEP is helping to move forward with this kind of journey. At this point of time, CBSE, we are offering multiple vocational courses at secondary and senior secondary level. All our learned principals and teachers are very much aware of. But we need to realize the special ability what these kind of courses are going to give for the future learner. And accordingly, if industry collaboration, especially in line of apprenticeship model, in line of that, again, that German dual systems, if somewhere in our Indian industry cluster, school industry and higher educational institute, that kind of cluster, if we can really create, I think the future learner or present learner, they will conceive the educations, rather the definition which I was referring would be more meaningful. So at this point of time, we need to look into their imagination's capability, their resilience capability, and kind of self-regulations, what they are actively doing at home for last 1.5 to 2 years. So this is a global scenario. But at the same time, we strongly believe beyond 2022, a new journey we can define. And for that, all kind of policy framework, if we start doing right from now, I think actively we can redefine the systems of education's delivery, both in India as well as in Germany. Because certainly your model need to be customized here for effective delivery mechanism. And similarly, the new learning with different contexts, how effective it is, that learning, again, you can take back to the Germany for the better understanding and redefining the skill set as well as the industry roadmap, whatever way we are going to redefine. So at this point of time, one way we are looking into 21st century skills, but other way, I think it is altogether is defining almost all the skills required for the future student, and future job markets are also going to tell us what kind of job role we require. So at this point of time, again, CBSE, for the sake of the principal and for the sake of the panelists, let me inform, we have already signed a memorandum of agreement with the National Council for Applied Economic Research to study the future skill requirement for the Indian school student vis-a-vis the industrial requirement. So we, as per their recommendations, whatever course we are offering, I think that would be more contextual, more nationalistic approach, as well as how globally this kind of job roles should be filled so that transnational activities can be really showcased. The second component, which usually our school leader face in terms of skill in school to higher education admission, they are again that collaborative efforts with All India Council for Technical Education. Through them, especially for the professional front, we are trying to catch hold of how best our student can take the admissions at the higher educational institutes, which is readily available in the German systems of applied university. So here in India, that kind of initiatives are on. Similarly, with University Grant Commission, which is another regulator of higher education, with them also we are engaged with the discussion so that National Skill Qualifications Framework, which was announced in 2013, can be implemented school to university in true spirit. Lastly, we have already signed an agreement with World Bank, and through them, we are going to establish 100 skill development center in the different part of the country. Now, those skill development centers are not limited to their own premises. Rather, there is a concept we have already established in CBSE affiliated schools that is called Hub of Learning. So some hub would be selected to establish this skill center, and through that, neighboring the collaborator schools are also, their students are also able to assess. And similar fashions, I am urging that the representative from Siemens Academy, representative from Indo-German Chamber of Commerce, and GIZ and other, and how centrally Goethe-Institute, CBSE can work together to bring all those different players in the market and integrate with the school ecosystem. Then I think our school leader, our teacher would feel more empowered and more connected with the resources so that they are present feeling of vocationalization in terms of typical mindset, which is segregating in nature. I think with the ambit of NAP, we can connect together and create a holistic delivery model of new education systems. With this, let me pause here and thanks all the dignitaries for coming together. And of course, my special thanks to our strength, that is our school leader, our teacher, who are always, despite of their other engagement, they always respond the CBSE's call. That is, I think, a huge for us and our team member who are very much, and especially R.P. Ching and his team, who is very much instrumental for bringing this project alive. Thank you very much. Namaskar and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Dr. Saha. Very well said. That's why the teachers are called the nation builders. Yeah. And yes, and thank you once again for putting the vision of CBSE in front of everyone and the plans. I'm sure everybody is able to now see the roadmap very clearly. It's now time to go to the partner organizer for today, Goethe-Institute, who is represented by Mr. Thomas Gödel, who is the Director, Language Program South Asia and the Deputy Executive Director, Goethe-Institute, Max Miller Bhavan. May I request Mr. Thomas Gödel to kindly take over the screen and the stage.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mohita. I would like to give you a very warm namaste from cold Europe to hot India, and I'm really impressed about all the numbers I heard, and I got to know that we are more than around about 2,000 participants in this meeting. So, dear Mr. Saha, dear Mrs. Pasha, dear Felix, greetings from the Goethe-Institute, Max Müller Bhavan. At the outset, I would like to thank the CBSE for organizing such an important event, and I'm really impressed about the roadmap which was mentioned by Dr. Saha. It's an honor and really a privilege for us, for the Goethe-Institute, to support such an endeavor. For those of you who might not know us very well, we are a cultural institute and we have our headquarters in Munich, Germany. Worldwide, we have more than 160 institutes. We are supported by the German Foreign Office, and our aim is to foster cultural and educational cooperation in our host countries. Promoting German language is a very important part of our work. We are really proud to be present in India at 6 locations. We have institutes in Delhi, in Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, Kolkata, and in Pune. At all our locations, we work together with local partners and we organize cultural events or events on German language. Today, we are witnessing one of such events. The National Education Policy 2020-2021 has very rightly recognized the importance of vocational education and give it due place in the education system. I would like to congratulate the Ministry of Education for recognizing this as a focus area. I have been now in India for almost 3 years, and I have experienced firsthand the dedication with which my Indian colleagues do their work. Their work ethics and commitment to their vocation is truly admirable and compares with the best in the world. And I can really say it because I already worked in many places. An experience and realization also shared by my German friends and colleagues in other companies. If we can further expand this talented pool with vocational education, it would further accelerate the amazing progress India is already making. In Germany, all companies, large, medium, or small, manufacture products that enjoy an excellent reputation across the world. The reason for this are the well-skilled people on their factory floors. It's not only the large corporations like Siemens, Mercedes-Benz, or BMW, everybody knows all over the world, that manufacture top-of-the-line products, but also the German medium-sized companies that form the backbone of the German economy. We call it der Mittelstand. These companies make world-class projects and are leaders in their respective fields. To give one example, those companies like Stadler or Faber-Castell, they have quality projects and they are also very well known here in India. Both companies are privately held enterprises that dominate stationary markets across borders. These skilled professionals are produced by the dual system of vocational training that combines practical work in a company with theory learned in school, in the Berufsschule, as we call it. Both things go hand in hand. The representation I see today on this panel underlies this fact. We have the academic rigor of the CBSE sitting next to industry, represented by the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce and a global player like Siemens AG, and we are happy to be partners and catalysts in this project with both. Pro recognition, as also Siemens have developed programs, tools that will help teachers chart their course better and students discover their interest in skills in various fields. We thank them for taking time out to be here today. In this context, I would like to refer to a new and very exciting law that is already in force in Germany, the Skilled Workers Immigration Law. Germany has opened its doors to skilled workers in many sectors of the economy. Skilled personnel with diplomas, degrees in their respective fields are being invited to come and work in Germany. We at the Goethe-Institute Max Müller-Bavern support this endeavor with our language programs. Because if you want to live and work in Germany, you need to know German. Knowledge of the German language is really a must. I wish you today an interesting presentation, and I'm looking forward to a long-term association with your schools in India. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gödel, for your kind words. Now it's time for the project presentation, the highlight of the day by Ms. Sonia Barasha and Ms. Isabel Yenninger. Before handing over the stage and the screen to them, may I request to all the attendees to be inquisitive and inquiring. We would be eagerly awaiting your questions and queries as the presentation is going on. Those of you who are watching the presentation through this meeting link, that is WebEx, may post the same in the chat box, while those of you who are watching this live on YouTube channel can post your queries there. Our team would be on the job simultaneously to look at the queries and questions posted by you and have them addressed in the question answer session in the end. So we'll try to address as many queries as possible during the sessions. However, if we are not able to do that, we would also get back to you in the end, by mail. So over to you, Sonia and Ms. Isabel.
Thank you, Mohita. First of all, on behalf of the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce, I would like to thank CBSE as well as Goethe to give us an opportunity to be part of this very, very important program. And I must say that I'm genuinely from my heart thrilled to be part of this initiative. Very quickly, a few words on the chamber so that you all know where we're coming from. We are, so it's Indo-German Chamber of Commerce, established in 1956, and we are part of the worldwide network of 140 German chambers of commerce abroad located in 92 countries. And with over 5,000 members, the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce is the largest German chamber worldwide and strongest bilateral chamber of commerce in India. We're headquartered in Mumbai and with 6 branch offices in Delhi, Chennai, Kolkata, Bengaluru, Pune, and Düsseldorf, Germany. And IGCC, that is the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce, is the most important catalyst for the promotion of trade and industrial relations between India and Germany. And I'm very glad that Siemens, one of our pioneers of so-called the Indo-German business success, is also participating today with us. So for your information, we have got about 1,800 German companies active in the Indian market and generating a lot of employment. But most important are the promoters of the topic skilling. Skilling is at the core of our businesses, and skilling is also at the core of our hearts. And that's why we all are here today. So we strongly believe, just like Dr. Saha mentioned, that skilling should actually not start after school, but at the school level itself. And it is important that we learn these soft competencies earlier to get professional orientation. Now, this professional orientation initiatives are also very incomplete if they do not succeed in equipping the young people with the training maturity. And the German Chamber Network worldwide has been playing a very important role in setting up and monitoring these initiatives. And that's the reason that the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce is also actively participating today, because I think it's important to bring academia and the industry together and to bring forth the importance of skilling right at the nascent stages. And I must admit that I am personally a part of the Indo-German skilling initiatives, and I'm very happy to be working in this Indo-German partnership and success story for more than 25 years, and the Chamber is celebrating 65 years there, here in India. So I would like to thank Goethe for partnering with us and bringing us on board today as well, along with my colleague Isabel Jenninger, and of course, as I mentioned, the industry pioneers of the Indo-German success story, Siemens. So now, without further delay, I am handing over to my colleague, Ms. Isabel Jenninger, head of dual pro and pro recognition. So let's say she's an expert on skilling and dual vocational training, to present more details. Over to you, Isabel, and I wish everybody a lot of learning and a lot of good spirit to take forward the story of skilling at earlier stages of our life, to bring this Indo-German success story even stronger. And we can all, both India and Germany, has a lot to learn from each other. And I sincerely believe in this partnership, and I wish everybody all the best. And over to you, Isabel.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Sonia, also not only of my person, but of course of the topic, which is, as we already heard from Ms. Kaur, not a new topic to you, dear participants, entirely. I'll just very quickly share my presentation with you, and I hope that you'll be able to see it. Okay, I see your reactions. Thank you for that. So that should be working. Yeah. Skilling, as I already mentioned, it's nothing new to you. Nonetheless, I would want to encourage you to join me in this process of thinking about vocational orientation and preparation in a wider sense. Of course, there are already initiatives of having skill courses in schools. However, if we look at professional orientation, even here, based on other models, like, for example, how it's also done in Germany, we see that we can think this whole concept in an even broader way. And I hope that you will also be convinced that this might be an interesting opportunity for you and your schools. Now, before we go into what would be different options of what you can do at your schools, I would first want to take a step back and talk with you about what is professional orientation, what makes professional orientation successful. And for that, there are basically 6 factors. The first thing, of course, it's in the name that with professional orientation, we want to encourage students that they make an autonomous career choice, so that at the end of a process, they've not only decided what they want to do, they also know how they can get into the profession that they want to do later on. And ideally, they also already know that this is exactly what they want to do, so that not once they start their studies or then get into the job, they realize, oh, I've somehow imagined that's slightly different. That's not really for me. Since professional orientation is therefore already a process of reflecting on yourself and reflecting on what's out there, it also prepares you for this lifelong learning process. You don't just wake up one day and decide, okay, I want to be an engineer. Ideally, that is a process where you get over time and which is associated with lifelong learning, therefore modeling the process that you will need throughout your entire career. Ideally, professional orientation therefore also expands the scope of occupations that you consider for yourself or that your students consider. That includes, of course, not only looking into different professions, but maybe even looking into roles that are not that gender typical. Then, good professional orientation programs also consider support needs. So you would really look at your students, look at what is it that most of them, what is actually realistic for them, or where are some of them that students might need additional support with, for example, if they come from a less privileged background, etc., etc. However, the core objective of professional orientation, which really becomes the measurement of whether what you are doing in terms of professional orientation is useful or not, is effective, is whether it promotes training maturity. What that means, I'll say in a minute. And therefore, it needs to be included in the curriculum as early as possible. Now, let's speak a little bit about this vocational maturity. What this means is basically that students are ready to go into the next step of their educational history, which would be then the professional education. So once they pass out of school, they would ideally go into an apprenticeship or they would pursue their higher studies. And for that, they need a certain training maturity. That means that at this point, they already have some basic education, of course, so they know how to read and to write and to calculate. They also have certain psychological performance characteristics, such as spatial thinking. They can logically reason with others, etc., etc. And of course, it is also assumed that they have an appropriate physical development and health level. All this would be assumed in the education, the general education that is provided by schools. However, what is also really important is that as educators, you already think early on about factors that promote the psychological work behavior and personality factors and vocational maturity. So psychological work behavior and personality factors, that sounds like quite a mouthful. What is meant with that is basically these soft aspects that make us successful in the workplace. An apprentice, for example, they're of course still young when they go into the company. Still, they already need to be able to do things like coordinate with their team members. They need to be able to communicate professionally and effectively. They need to be able to organize their work. They need to be reliable. They need to have a certain quality expectation in their own work. And of course, sometimes we probably all know that in the workplace, there are some conflicts, there might be some frustrations. You need to be able to cope with that in order to succeed in the workplace. So this is what is meant with psychological work behavior and personality factors. Vocational maturity is what we typically would associate with professional orientation. So that is, for one, that the student has understood that there are different professional ways, professional paths out there that he or she can pursue. They reflect on their own interests, and they make a career choice based on their talents, their interests, maybe their goals later on in life. On top of that, or as part of it, this also includes that they are able, on the one hand side, to get information, reliable information from different sources. They are able to process that information, to evaluate, is that information actually correct, where does it come from, etc. And they need to also be able to do something with that information. Ideally, in the end, the decision of their career, what they want to do next. So accordingly, these two factors are really, really important, because that is something that is more specific to professional orientation. And if you, as educators, want to implement that successfully in your schools, we at the Chamber have come up with a process, or we have defined this whole thing as a process with 4 steps, starting with an activation phase. You wouldn't go to your student and ask him or her, okay, what do you want to be? Now we'll prepare you for this, right? You would ideally first lead them in a softer way, in a more playful way, into this whole process of making a decision about what they want to do later on. So this is what we mean with activation phase. Typically, this can be started very, very early on, maybe as early as class 6 or class 8. So in a playful manner, basically, you would start introducing this whole topic of professional orientation, even though there's still a little bit of time before they actually need to make a decision. This would be followed by an orientation phase, where students reflect on what is it that they want to do, what is out there, etc., followed by a preparation and decision phase. And finally, at the end of this process, ideally, they know what they want to do and they would go into the workplace. Now, what exactly does this entail? As I already mentioned, activation isn't really about professional orientation yet. It's really to kind of get the kids a bit interested in this whole decision making. I'm not sure how you experience it with your students, but I remember myself when I was in that phase, and also when my little brother was going through this, the whole topic of professional orientation was very difficult to talk about, because it's just a lot of pressure. There's a lot of change and uncertainty. So as a young person, you would not necessarily want to speak about that very openly. So through an activation phase, you can get kids to first think about what is it that they like to do, that they enjoy doing, that the talents that they have, maybe also things that they're not doing so well, without having the pressure of directly connecting this with a career choice, which is still years away, maybe even. Typical tools here, for example, would be a potential analysis. So a potential analysis, you can imagine like a playful assessment center, where for a duration of maybe 2 or 3 days, kids in groups go through different games where they need to test different hard and soft skills. They get to experience themselves, what they like, where their talents are. And that is complemented with external feedback that they get through a trained counselor who knows how to conduct these potential analysis. So at the end of this whole process, the student has a first idea of who they are, what their talents are, and maybe also complemented with an external view. Then once you have this first introspection of, okay, this is who I am, what I like, what I can potentially do, then the next phase, of course, would be that now you go into the external world. You see what all professional fields are out there. Over here, it is really important that students do not get a limited view. Of course, we know that, companies have certain skill needs, and it's important to also consider this. On the other hand side, it also doesn't help to limit the professional fields that students can get insight in too early onwards based on this demand. As I mentioned initially, really successful professional orientation is about widening the scope. So as educators, you'll probably be more in a situation where you'll have to encourage students to maybe go into a field that they might have not really considered before, to do something entirely different that they've never really tried out. So this is what the orientation phase is about. They first look what is all out there, maybe on a theoretical level, but then also give them the opportunity to go into companies to see how does the workplace of an engineer actually look, for example. Or to see through workshop days what different professions entail, so that from a very abstract level, it is refined more and more towards really having a more specific idea about with what different job fields and jobs are about. In the preparation and decision phase, now the students ideally already have a first idea of what's out there and maybe also what works for them, what doesn't really work for them in terms of interests and talents. Now, in the preparation phase, this is where skill courses would really come into the play, because then the kids hands-on can already try out certain key skills for different professions, maybe even go into a company, do small internships, see through company explorations how people in different jobs work, and then accordingly narrow it down further until they have made a decision, which would then lead us to the next phase, the implementation. Now, if they already know, okay, I actually want to become an engineer, for example, they know where these courses are offered. So they know what is the process to become an engineer. I probably have to study. Where can I study? Whatever I'm interested in, which universities offer this? What do I need to prepare in order to enroll in the course, etc., etc. And also have the application skills that they can actually present themselves properly and professionally to a company that wants to train them, or later on any university interviews that might be there. So at the end of the process, you see it's basically a funnel from the very vague thing, first starting from reflecting on yourself and really going into the specifics of, okay, this is what I want to do and this is how I'm going to get there. Now, what exactly can you do at your schools in order to get your students to that point? As I mentioned, there are a lot of different tools, and which tools work best for you probably depends on where your school is located, what industries are around there, maybe also what resources you have, how good the network is, etc., etc. But there are a lot of different tools across all of these phases, which I've mentioned here. What is important is that it's not just about picking out single tools. Really always keep the holistic concept in mind and this process behind it. Otherwise, it's very easy to kind of lose track of a bigger objective of really widening the scope and promoting training maturity. So therefore, it's important that all these programs are anchored somewhere by, for example, a subject or another activity which runs over multiple years and that teaches these cross-curricular competencies which are required in order to succeed in the workplace. Ideally, of course, you have a really integrated approach of how these different methods complement each other and how they work to the bigger objective. And this is why we are, of course, here today from the IGCC. As Ms. Pochard already mentioned, at the IGCC, we are, of course, experts predominantly in vocational education and training. So that means that we help our member companies in setting up skilling initiatives that might be proper 3-year training programs, which happen both in the workplace and in theory. And we quality assure this throughout the entire durations. Could also be setting up short-term skilling courses, whatever is needed. Now, of course, in Germany, the whole vocational education system, however, is not completely disconnected from the schools. This bridge that Dr. Saha mentioned initially is very much there and has been continuously strengthened over recent years through various professional orientation courses. And this is exactly where even we as the chamber now are coming and saying, like, if you need support as a school, we'd be very happy to support you through this expertise that we have in this area. May it be through initial advisory, giving ideas of what you could possibly do at your school, how to go about this, developing concepts, finding partners, especially in the industry, who can help you implement this. And right now, we are also in the process of developing materials, including training materials for those people who will be active in implementing these vocational orientation initiatives. And of course, if you want to set up a vocational course, that is our daily bread and butter, so to say. So we could also help you out with that too. Now, specifically, when it comes to the materials that I've mentioned, we are currently working on the following things, which hopefully we can also offer you in short time. One thing is that we're working on a toolkit for school coordinators. So that means if you want to get into professional orientation more, you want to really set up a comprehensive concept. We want to be able to give you certain materials so that you have guidelines on how do you organize all of this? What kind of things do you need to consider? What are different methods that you can use? And here, particularly, we're also in discussions with the GIZ, who has already done projects in the area of career counseling also, of how we can use the things that are already there, put them together in order to basically help you with all materials that you could possibly need in order to succeed. Now, this tool of potential analysis I've already mentioned, and I think that is really something that is really exciting for the kids. That's a lot of fun for them. And that makes just a lot of sense to start to use at the beginning of the professional orientation process. So even here, we are working on materials for schools, as well as a training concept for these facilitators, because a potential analysis is never just done by the kids alone. There are always some trained counselors around who observe the kids and afterwards also give them feedback. And finally, we're also working on material for the students themselves. First of all, that gives them an overview of what all is out there. What are all the options that they have? Because even that is something that initially as a student you don't always have, right? You probably listen to your parents, to your friends of what you could possibly become. But there are always more things that you can explore and that might end up to be your dream job. And at the same time, as I mentioned, it is a process over multiple years. So we are also working on reflection materials that help these students to reflect throughout the entire process, to always keep anchored somewhere and to not get lost in their considerations, even if they change over the years. Now, if you have any detailed questions on this, of course, you can always reach out to me even after this event. I hope that we also have a couple of questions after this presentation. And I'm working together with my colleague, Mr. Thomas Michaels, who is also a business scout for development and also an experienced professional in the domain of professional orientation. And with this, I would like to close the little presentation. And Mohita, I see that you've switched on your camera again, so I hand back to you.
Thank you, Isabel. But we do have time in case you want to continue. We are already, I mean, it's perfectly all right. Yeah. Do you want to continue, Isabel?
No, actually, I hope that maybe then we can change this more into a dialogue afterwards and maybe take a few more questions, if that would be okay.
Right. We will do that, yeah. And then I have to thank you, Ms. Parashar and Ms. Yeninger, for this very, very detailed presentation. I'm sure, Ms. Yeninger, after your presentation, there are some questions, although you've addressed most of them. I could see the questions which were there were addressed Most of them have already been addressed in your presentation, but yes, we'll go back to the questions. And very, very important partners here are the industry. And here, the German industry today is represented by a very able team from Siemens Limited. I hand over the screen and the stage to you, Mr. Manmohan Singh, who is the head of Siemens Training Academy, and Mr. Sivakumar. So over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mohita. And a big thank you to CBSE board as well as Goethe-Institute for allowing us to be a part of this forum panel to discuss and talk about, share things which we are doing as a part of in Siemens. So definitely at Germany, a lot of things have been done by Siemens, but in India also we do have a good presence, and with that, definitely skilling is something which we are concerned, and as well as a lot of initiatives. So let me take you through some of the initiatives that we are driving as a part of Siemens business and as well as a part of corporate social responsibility. Yeah, I'll share my screen. Yeah, is my screen visible to you guys?
Yes, it is.
Okay, cool, great. So basically, Siemens has a complete spectrum. I would say STEM. We call it as a STEM framework, right from the school to the research. And yeah. So we have a lot of initiatives which we have been driving at the schools, especially at the government schools. We call it as STEM in school. The idea of this project is to reinitiate the curiosity which dies over a period of time, and to generate interest in math, especially in maths and science, which gets little lower down over a period of time. So that's one project which we are running at the school. Like Elizabeth talked about the dual mode of training, or which we call it as dual vocational education and training, dual VT. So we do have two programs which we are currently running. One which is in-house, we call it as Siemens Technical Academy. That's a in-house dual VT center at our Mumbai location. And then we have a project which we are currently running in government ITIs in partnership with Tata Style. We call it as Dual VT at Government ITI. So apart from that, there are other projects which we are running, like Ignite. Ignite again is based on the same line of Dual VT, wherein we have partnered or collaborated with GIZ and MSDE. Then we have Siemens Scholarship Program for the engineering students. And there are a lot of university collaborations over a period of time which we have done, so that we could promote a lot of technology, a lot of competencies could be shared with the universities, so that the overall, I would say, employability of the students increases, and as well as they get the first hand exposure of the latest technology, of the new technologies which is coming into the market. With that, we have Center of Excellences and as well as Safety Center to focus on specific topics. And idea is that to provide them with the state-of-art tools and technologies to work upon, so that they get a complete exposure, and as well as give them rigorous training on the safety aspects, so that as a safety as a culture is imbibed into them whenever they go ahead and join the industry. It could be manufacturing sector, it could be engineering industry. So just to focus on two major initiatives which we would like to share here, because we are talking about schools. So STEM in school is one project which we have been running across 3 states with 8 locations. The focus of this initiative is basically to promote the curiosity based learning, and as well as set up a pipeline for the vocational education. So as mentioned by Mr. Shah, that education without competency is you know is something which needs to be taken care of, and that's what we thought that if we need to improve the overall output, then we need to start at the base itself. So that's why we are talking about this project, where we are focusing on the pedagogy part, that is the teaching methodology of the teachers, that how do we improve or how do we update the way the teachers are taking up maths and science subject at the school level. So the idea is to include a kind of a cycle of inquiry, a kind of a inquiry-based learning, so that the curiosity could be generated among the students. The subject could be made interesting. As we all are aware that most of the, at school level, there is a lack of activity and as well as application. So in order uh, to bring certain, I would say, certain level of activities, and as well as to bring science lab into the classroom, we provide students, teachers with the STEM kits. These are all do-it-yourself type kits. These are mapped with the syllabus, so that in case if the teacher is taking any subject in the classroom, she can explain through these kits by assembling the kits together with the students, and in a way student also gets interested in the topic and as well as understands the topic in a better way. And of course, to aid that, we have certain digital content, so that during the offline time or during the free time, the students can go through this content and can clear their doubts, or can also further study about the topics which they are interested. And of course, this is some project which we are running currently with the government schools, and our ambition is to also expand. The second one, which I would like to share with you, is the dual VT model or the dual vocational education model. Here, when we talk about duality, we are talking about the duality of student learning at an institute and then going to an industry for the on-the-job training or for the on-the-job experience. So the idea of this overall dual VT is is to focus on two basic elements. One is that how do we enhance the learning pedagogy at the government ITIs? How do we, improvise the government ITIs, the government ITI, I would say infrastructure, and as well as the human resource there, basically the instructors. And second one is that the commitment or the handshake from the industries, from the local industry, especially the MSMEs, where these trainees could go and do the hands-on training of whatever learning they are getting at the ITIs. In this, when we talk about the pedagogy of the government ITIs, or whether when we talk about the improvisation, we are talking about two major elements here. One is the inquiry-based learning. Again, the same, we call it as even curiosity-based learning. It's the same thing which we have been focusing on in the STEM project also. And the second one here, what we have added is the project-based learning, because projects are some kind of, I would say in a way, gives an overall experience to the trainee of things they can do when they go to the industry. Like, for example, Elizabeth talked about the psychological work, behavior, and personality factors. So definitely these are something which it can be developed with the project-based learning. Like, for example, when the students do project at the ITIs, they get involved. There is a leader in that group. There is some person who takes charge of the financials. There's some person who takes charge of the time management, basically preparing time schedule. So likewise, if it is a team of five, then definitely there is conflict. So there is always a conflict management. Then it's a group thing, so group activities. So there are a lot of interpersonal skills development which happen over a period of time when they do these kinds of projects. And the third element here is very important. It's called as the integrated safety. As Siemens, we promote safety as a culture. We say that safety is something which has to go with you every day. So be it at your workplace or be it at your home, you need to be aware of the safety. So that's the idea, is that how do we promote this safety right from the beginning itself, right at the education level itself, so that when they enter into the industry, they are well aware of the industry safety norms, and as well as they are well aware of the kind of process they need to follow. Now, when we talk about the local industry, we are talking about the local MSMEs, because in India, as we all know, that the MSMEs are the second, I would say, the second highest employers who employ trainees for the manufacturing. So, idea is that how do we bridge the gap between the academia and the industry, and bring these local industries as partners or as equal stakeholders in the overall skill development. And this is done through on the job training. We reach out to the local industries so that they could provide 1 month of complete on the job training in the first year of the ITI, and then 2 months in the second year of the ITI. And with that, they in these months, they could also take along certain topics, or I would say certain technical topics, which are unfortunately not part of the syllabus of the ITI. So we are talking about the advanced training, so that tomorrow, once these trainees land up at their factory, or at their manufacturing unit, or at any other industries, they are well aware of the technologies which are being used by the companies. And of course, the last element which we talk about in this overall initiative is the promotion of apprenticeship, where we want the industries to come forward and take these students for 1 year apprentices, so that it gives a complete exposure of the industry, and finally they are like from the day one completely employable, and gives profit to the company. So these are the two major initiatives which we are running as a part of our corporate social responsibility with the government ITIs in three states: Maharashtra, Delhi, and West Bengal. Yeah. Thank you, Mohita. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Manmohan Singh. That was a lot of information and very illuminative. I mean, we are impressed by the various initiatives that Siemens is doing, has undertaken. So the stage is now set. We have received a lot of information, project presentation. It's time for the question answer session now. May I request all the panelists to please switch on their cameras, and I will, with the help of my team, then take on the questions. May we begin? Ms. Yeninga, Dr. Saha, Mr. Singh, to Goethe, Puneet, can we? Yes, all right. Okay, there have been some questions which have been answered already, but I'll still read them out. The first questions were, ma'am or sir, I would like to know about internships, if any, planned for students in grade 11th and 12th of all domains, science, commerce, and humanities. We look forward to all opportunities for students. So, as you would have seen, ma'am, it is all a part of the program. So it's a complete capsule in itself, right, Ms. Yeninger, or would you like to take it on?
Yes, of course. Ideally, internships should be part of this, but here we also need to be a little realistic. It's important to have a really good network of companies around your school location. Ideally, those who are also active in the field of vocational training, who understand how to work with young people in a professional environment. So therefore, I think it needs to be a give and take between the educational sector and the industry, ideally through things like councils for professional orientation that come together, that kind of see what is it that we need in the industry, and then have also a group of schools there who see how are we preparing our students in order to, be useful, also to be, actually be, how can I say that? Who can actually also be put into an industry environment and succeed there through these factors such as vocational maturity. But this needs to be decided based on the school location.
Right. Thank you. The age criteria is the question by Ms. Runki Basta, if I've got the name right. Would you like to take it, Dr. Saha, Mr. Singh, the age criteria? Or is this the question regarding Ms. Yeninger's presentation?
I didn't follow the age criteria. A question I didn't follow. Can you repeat?
The only thing which was written was age criteria. So I think
there could be two ways. Age criteria, if in our system, of course, for apprenticeship program, certainly we are not taking the student of class 6 or 8. Rather, it is beyond maybe 9 to 12 that apprenticeships or exposure visits, all those kind of things we'll do. For 6 to 8, that age criteria, that way is defined norms of the government which are very much available, because class 1, that is 5 years plus is coming to class 1, and accordingly one can calculate the age criteria for any kind of vocational education. As we have started a module from class 6 onwards, so that means 12 plus or 11 plus. Similarly, it is applicable for the class 9 and class 11. That would be the minimum, but there is no limit for any maximum age criteria in our systems, because different kind of multi-entry systems are there through which EWS and other category of students are coming into the system. So that way, flexible age criteria are there, but minimum things can be definitely defined.
Right. Thank you, sir. The next question is from Shaniti. How do we collaborate and seek training in our campus in Bangalore? The question is for you, Ms. Yeninger.
Of course, we can have a discussion to see what is the environment and what exactly would be suitable for your school. Sorry, as I said, it's not one size fits all. It's really about what's the environment, what's the ecosystem, what is possible in the school, and accordingly we can set up a concept. However, one thing that I would also like to mention over here is that we are already actively in discussions with Ms. Mohita Miglani and Ms. Puneet Kaur to develop first concepts of how vocational orientation and preparation can actually look in practice at different schools. And of course, we hope that we can also set up one model over here, which we then can replicate to more schools. If you are interested in, starting directly in Bangalore, of course, as I said, we can already have a discussion and maybe also start over there with one of these different models.
Puneet, would you like to add in here, or should we go to the next question?
Thanks, Mohita. As far as at first we are waiting, I think those modules are under development, the toolkits, etc., that Pro Recognition is working on. Once they start, I think we will start talking to our partner schools. We have a good network of partner schools who are there, and I think we are already in touch with some that will set up these centers there where we'll go, and this will have to be initially at a pilot stage where we'll see how things work, and then we expand it to other schools. And if we know that there is a specific school which is interested in this, like this school in Bangalore, then please do reach out to us, write to us, and we'll we'll stay in touch with you and bring these programs to your schools as well. So the idea is to just keep in touch with us and let us know that you are interested, and these programs and tools as and when they're ready, and I think that'll be very soon, we'll be getting in touch with you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Puneet Kaur. That also answers, I think, the next question. Ma'am, kindly talk about schools in small cities and poor families. This is, I think, includes everything, right? If I'm
schools in small cities or large cities is not you should be interested. You should have an open mind, I think. Please correct me, anybody on the panel, if you think I'm wrong. It's not whether you're in the large or small cities. Children are the same everywhere, very curious. They want to find chart new territories for themselves. And I think small city kids have as much of a right to that, those kind of new avenues as anybody in a large city. And we would not like to say we only want to be in large cities. So if you're interested and reach out to us, we will do our best.
Thank you, Ms. Puneet Kaur. Then we move on to the next question. The question is, what skill things can students do and what skilled courses can we take up? Now, I think I request the team from CBSE, Dr. Saha, Mr. Singh, if you could take the questions.
I think you can discuss separately with Mr. R.P. Singh because then more details he can provide, and from those options you can choose some. So maybe it may not be, I may not give the direct answer because there are a lot of options from 6 to 12. At senior secondary level, we are offering 38 courses, and at secondary level, we are offering 18 courses. And similarly, at 6 to 8, we are offering 11 courses. So considering this variety, I think more option, more capability of the courses and interest of the student and context on which you are asking and their background to aspirations. So I think some mixed model way out we need to think of. So that's why maybe separately you can discuss over phone or email with Mr. R.P. Singh. He can provide you the micro details, and accordingly you will be in a position to decide. If not, then if need be, CBSE and school can also jointly organize one workshop for the parents. As maybe some representative from our office may help you out in that directions. No issue.
Thank
we'll
you,
help
Dr.
you
Saha.
to decide that course. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saha. So you have Mr. Singh's number in the notification, I mean the email ID. So you could write to them, write to Mr. Singh, right, Mr. Singh? And then he'll give you the details. Right.
Yes, sir. Anyways, I'm adding my email ID in the chat box also.
Right. And you will also get an email from us regarding the feedback. You will get all the email IDs there as well once again. So the next question is, I would like to know what is the acceptance of skill subjects at the level of undergrad admissions in foreign universities presently? Do they count as core subjects at all? Would the team from CBSE like to take this?
Okay. As far as the acceptance of the skill courses in the undergrad colleges are concerned, they are very well accepted. Except a few colleges, we are in constant communication with these colleges and universities for the admission criteria to be modified accordingly. So the matter is being taken up at a very high stage and very seriously being followed up from our institutions. So this is being accepted, and no need to worry about the acceptance of the skill courses in the undergrad.
Right. Thank you, sir. Then there's another question. Do schools need to have a separate setup to implement this? The question is open to the panel.
See, that depends upon the subject that you are taking. Because in some of the subjects, you already have a setup existing in the school, and the subjects can be taken up within that setup also. But and also depends upon the level. If you are taking that at an awareness level of 6 to 8 or maybe 9 to 10, then the setup that already exists within the school for your science and computers is sometimes, most of the time, sufficient for taking skill courses. But when you're taking specialized courses, then you need specialized hands-on equipment. Then you need to maybe set up a lab for doing that.
Right.
May I add something here to Mr. Singh's answer? Of course. For the school subjects, of course, you are the expert. With regard to other concepts that you might do in the area of professional orientation, here it again comes back to the partner network. It helps if you have partners in the environment, then to also give students the chance to go out to really explore workplaces, to see how companies work. Because even in vocational training, we see that this sometimes is a gap, that students then learn at an institute, but when they come to a workplace only after they complete their training course, and it turns out to be something completely different, right? So wherever possible, also as a school, I would recommend to already complement skill courses also with experiences from the industry. For example, by going simply on a company tour, maybe taking a visit to Siemens then also, and see what's happening there, both in the industry, in the academy, as well as I also know that some of the apprentices also go to the shop floor. And then maybe see if they can just shadow someone in a job for a certain amount of time, if they can do some internships. There are really a lot of opportunities to bring students out into the workplace and have them have different experience.
Thank you, Mr. Singh and Ms. Yenninger. And now we move on to the next. Is there any feedback form? As I said, you'll all receive a mail from us with the feedback form. Right, Mr. Singh, Ms. Kaur? So you'll get it in the coming days. Yeah. So next question is, dear sir, will it be started from secondary level, and do we have any list of vocational training? I think Dr. Saha has already said the lists are very much in place on the website. In case you can't find them, please feel free to write to Mr. Singh. He'll guide you where to find and how to go about it. Then there's the next question. Good afternoon, resource persons. Usually we prepare internships at 11th and 12th grades, but how to incorporate at 9th and 10th level as a part of their curriculum to these vocational courses? Would you like to take it? I think we've already talked about it. Isabel Yenninger has already talked about it, but still, if the panel wants to take it, how to incorporate the 9th and 10th level as the part of their curriculum, these vocational courses, how will it be incorporated at 9th and 10th level?
As far as the scheme of studies of CBSE is concerned, the skill subjects are taken at number 6. So 5 mandatory subjects and 6 would be optional subjects. And if you want to collaborate with the technical team, like we are setting up, as the Sahasar in his opening address has talked about setting up of skill centers. So the school can collaborate and join hands in the hubs of learning environment. And skill centers can be set up, which can help in giving hands-on experience to students if the school does not have the facility to set up a technical lab. Because some of the times the technical labs schools are not that much equipped to set up labs for their classes. Second is the component of exposure visits is an inherent component of all the practicals. But because of the pandemic and the restricted movement, so this was only limited to doing online visits or having online projects. So once the country and the world opens up, the exposure visits definitely in terms of physical visits is a component. So till that time, online visits are being considered.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. The next question is regarding the age criteria for learning German language. And I'll club it with another question which is there. Is business German a subject in classes 11th and 12th? Ms. Kaur, would you like to take that?
Yeah, as far as the age criteria for learning German language goes, no, there is no age criteria. We have schools already who are offering German from class 3 onwards. There are others who start only in class 8, some start in class 6. So it's a matter of interest when you feel your students are ready to start learning. It's never too early or too late to start learning a language or any other skill or any other thing as for that matter. And there is material available for that. And if any school is interested, we hold their hand through it, and we have the expertise and the wherewithal to help you get started. So as far as age goes, that will not be a barrier at the lower end or at the upper end. I think that won't be an issue. I see one more question which is associated with that, whether the programs that we are offering are only for our partner schools. Not really, because when we start, we'll probably start with our partner schools because they're known to us, but actually our programs are open to everybody. We are more interested in the welfare of the children. But yes, initially, we definitely will be first reaching out to our partner schools because there is already a kind of a common basis there. We know each other, the communication is set, so it becomes easier initially to get started with these schools. But yes, we are open to all. We are an institute, or we as an organization have an open mind there. Mr. Goethe, would you like to say something about that? The Goethe-Institute is open, I think, to partnerships with one and all, if you would like to say a few words there.
I think that you said, mentioned everything. There's nothing to add. It was perfect.
Okay. So stay in touch with us. It's not, if you have German, wonderful. If not, we could start sometime, but even otherwise, please feel free to reach out to us and don't be hesitant. Oh, we don't have German, we can't talk to them. No, there's no such thing. Reach out to us.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Kaur. Then the next question, how often we can include this program as a part of continuous learning? I think it's already been addressed in the various other questions. Any assessment will be conducted to select students for these programs? If I've understood correctly, it's a program which will be, when it's introduced in school, it will be for everybody, right? There's no hard and fast. I mean, it's not for some specific students. The panel, all right.
If the question is about selecting students for the subject, then when it's given to a school, it's up to the school and the attitude that the child is showing to take up the subject from the list of subjects that CBSE is offering. Incidentally, we offer around 11 awareness modules in 6 to 8, which the school can take up any of them. None of them is mandatory. Then we offer 19 subjects in class 9, 10, 10, again in the optional stream, under the skilling initiative. The school can take up any. But it would be better if the school could do some analysis or some aptitude testing with the students and the interest mapping, so that when the child takes up the subject, he takes up the subject of his own liking.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. The next question is, could you please list out few professional trainings which we can undertake at the school level?
I think that is for you, which trainings you can do for the students.
I mean, if we implement the program, Ms. Yeninger, which you've lined out, would there be professional trainings with the school? We'll have to undertake on this one.
Well, of course. Wherever there are new concepts, for example, like, as I mentioned, with a potential analysis, we would also offer trainings of how to do this. When it comes to skill subjects, sorry, this is why I didn't respond. I first thought that it was a question to Mr. Singh. When it comes to skill subjects, so if you want to implement new skills, of course, as the Chamber, we also have a wide network of experts which can also be taken up as partners to implement certain skill courses in particular domains. So long question or a long answer short, no matter what your skilling requirement is, we can either implement that ourselves, that you get a training from us, or we have the partners to do so.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Yeninger. I think we'll can stop here for this thing, or is the panel want to take more questions? Or you think we can answer them on mail then?
if we have a few more questions, we can take that, I think.
All right.
On our hands.
Okay, we still have time, 5-7 minutes. These training tools, will they be shared by CBSE schools or do we need to approach you? This is a question, I think, addressed to Goethe-Institute and for recognition.
One second. Sorry. I think initially some schools let please approach us because when we are beginning out, we can't begin on a very large scale. Isabel, please correct me when I go wrong here anyway. Initially, I think when we start out, we would like to start out with a selected group of schools. How we go about it, we will see. But slowly and steadily, as we expand the program, maybe through the good offices of the CBSE, we can sort of even reach out to you. So this is a process which will happen. As I said, we are at the beginning of that process. Things are being developed. So initially, probably we'll start out with a few schools and then we'll expand it further. That's how we sort of envisage the whole thing.
Right. Small and steady steps is what we are looking at. And then we'll start running with CBSE together, if I may put it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, it will somewhere take on a critical mass and then it's available to everybody. But we can't really start very big immediately because then there are pitfalls we are not aware of as yet. What may be perfect for us on the ground, we may find it needs a little tweaking. So we'd like to start out small first and then take it forward.
We have a question from JNV Lucknow. JNV Lucknow is interested. So it's an observation. Would you like
as it is one of our partner schools, we'd be more than happy to do so.
Okay. Right. How can we bring these skill-based or vocational courses and training in online classes? Would you like to take that on? This question is open to the panel. Skill-based and vocational courses and training in online classes. Are we ready for this?
There are a lot of platforms that are available. Bharat e-skills and Future e-skills, to name a few. And then PTech open resources are there. Even NASCOM is coming up with a lot of resources. So the resources are available for online resource material that can be used by teachers for teaching vocational courses. These are basically the resources developed within the country also, and some have been outsourced and then brought to the country. But basically what online classes have done for the academic world and for the teaching fraternity in particular is that they have given more creativity to the teachers in the kind of creativity that the teachers are now able to do in the online classes and that kind of availability of resources and hands-on activity with the online resources that the teachers are exposing their students to, the kind of research the child is now able to do using the online resources. So that has really helped the schools to really look at the scenario of giving education in a blended mode or in an online mode with a very different viewpoint. Initially, had you thought of giving an online class and online schooling 2 years back, then it would not have been a very different scenario. We would have faced a lot of flack from the schools. But now the schools are demanding guidelines for doing online classes. They are demanding resources for online classes. And the way the schools have really done experiment, shown innovativeness when it comes to implementing online classes for the students. Even the government schools in the remotest of areas have been able to reach out to their students in the time of pandemic. So the teachers have become very creative, and I'm sure they will find very nice and novel ways of implementing skill education in online mode also.
Thank you, Mr. Singh, for putting it in context and very rightly said. We've adapted and teachers more than anybody else. Yeah. So with this, we stop the question sessions. The rest of the questions we will take on and we will write back to you. And it is back to you, Mr. Singh, for vote of thanks.
Thank you, Mohita. Thank you. It has been indeed a very nice program. It has been a very nice 1.5 hours that we have spent and discussed a lot of things. and more than 970 people have participated today in the program. Our platform is restricted to 1,000 people when it comes to live here. And YouTube, we have had around 100 people who have gone live to participate, and it has increased and dropped. So it has already been 400 to 500 people. So what I can say is that this small step taken with Goethe, that we wanted an awareness, has now become a big step. So this no longer is a small step, and we have been able to reach around 2,000 schools. So I would be failing in my duties if I don't thank the German Chamber of Commerce for being a part of this, Siemens Industry, Manmohanji for being a part of this program, Isabel for bringing the context so well. But I would especially like to thank Dr. Dr. Vishnuji Saha for laying the context of this whole program, for informing what CBSE is actually thinking about in terms of skill education, what are the forthcoming initiatives, and how we are looking at collaborating not within the country but outside the country also. Thank you, Mohita, for bringing us all together on this platform. And thank you, Sonia ji and Sivakumar ji for being here and addressing the participants. But most importantly, I would like to thank Chairman CBSE Nafsinshia, who was supposed to be part of this whole program, but suddenly due to some important engagement at the level of ministry, he could not be part of this whole program. But he was very instrumental in bringing this whole program together and pushing us to take this initiative forward and backing us at all the levels. Thank you for the colleagues from CBSE who have been kind enough to join us and be part of this program, and especially the IT team of CBSE who has put this whole program together, arranged a webcast, and also we have been live on YouTube also. Thank you everyone, and thank you so much. This is just a beginning. We hope to have many more programs like this so that we can have a very nice collaboration and bring the best from various countries in terms of skilling to our schools in CBSE. Hubs of learning, skill centers, lots of things happening, industry coming in, not only from India, but from outside, industry coming to the help of academia. So we are looking at a brighter future in terms of skill education. With this hope, thank you so much for joining us. Back to you, Mohita.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Gödel, Puneet, Sonia, Dr. Saha, Isabel, Manmohanji, Shiva, Mr. Singh, of course, and our entire team who's been there, who's been working for days to put this together. Behind the gray screen, there are people who've been working day and night so that this could go on without any glitch. And it is there, this is what we are aiming at, skilling, the work gets done because there is a team who's getting it done. So thank you everyone for joining in, and I hope this initiative taken up by CBSE and Goethe-Institute, very ably supported by Indo-German Chamber of Commerce and the German industry, will take our children forward. That is why we are all here. So with that note, thank you everyone, and see you soon. Once again.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.